food is basically alive, dead, or dumb. And so if you're eating food if you're doing things and eating foods that dumb down your system, like your physiology gets dumb. And the word we're using for there is like there's undigested food or ama, or there's complacency. And so the more complacency, the harder to get your get up and go on. So even small adversity habits throughout the day, humming. Who did a little humming yesterday? Did anyone do a little humming? Yeah, sweet. It's like, it's not hard. You just have to remember. And even like not eating, there's a level to it that it's not hard. You just have to remember why you're doing it. Anybody hungry? Oh my gosh. Yeah. What are you hungry? We'll start with the question, what are you really hungry for? So I think it was in Uninflamed, I wrote about fear of conflict, like fear of hunger, parallel to fear of conflict. So we can play around a little bit with that, how when you're hungry, you feel, you can use hunger to feel desire that gets covered by complacency of being overfed. So humans first started to be overfed about 10,000 years ago. It was the beginning of agriculture. And that's where we see the beginning of chronic inflammatory diseases. Which, I don't know, does anyone else kind of find that fascinating? Like if you take a long view of history. Yeah, and it's like, is anyone's cupboard ever really bare? So there's going to be, we're all going to have a complacency then, right? If we take that perspective of like, well, human evolution, you know, I don't know. I can't remember how many. I used to have it on my wall. Let me see if it's still there. I feel like I want to say like 200 million years. It's not on my wall anymore. It's a long time. So 10,000 years is like a second ago. So it's been for like a hot minute that we've stored grain. And it's shrunk our brains, and it's decreased our focus, and it's dulled our senses. So whose sense of smell is waking up, or sense of taste? Is anyone like, you can smell and taste? Yeah. So the research on smell is really interesting because sense of smell is one of the best indicators of when someone will die. We talked about leg strength yesterday, but sense of smell is actually even a better indicator. Anosmia. So as your sense of hunger is waking up, right? Your hunger is waking up, and for many of you, it's probably what I call inverted, where that you can just actually feel that it's mellower because the body's starting to just digest and upcycle whatever it wants, like whatever is probably the largest offense, whatever is the most offensive to the body, it'll go there first. And then it'll work deeper for longer. So if we look at this long history, like our sense of smell as humans it's actually way better than we actually utilize. And it's simply because we're not getting hungry enough. Like we don't let the fat cells lean out enough for the sense organs to wake up enough, for the brain to get focused enough. And so we lose track, just coming back to desire and hunger for what you really want. We lose track, or it's hard to track what it is that we really want, like what we really want in life. And so then we just sort of end up in, to one degree or another, repeating yesterday, tomorrow. And there's all sorts of assumptions that the mind will make that will justify that. And so as you stop eating or slow eating down or minimize eating, or just become very strict with self-care routines for those who are just doing that, it will bring things to the surface to be digested. It'll bring things from bring things. It'll bring, in Ayurveda, the word for things we use is ama, which is that which is undigested, or that which is rendered from poor quality digestion, which can just be poor quality tissue. So the stuff that's in cells that are bloated, if you will, and they can be bloated with excess nutrition, right? And then it sort of dumbs down the cell. It sort of dumbs down the cell membrane, which is communicating with the other cells via neurotransmitters that are on the cell membrane. So all of that just gets a little downgraded, and that's when we see entropy. And then you let yourself get a little hungrier and you're chill with it, right? You're not like, oh my God, the world's going to fall apart because I'm hungry. Or maybe we have a little bit of that because it does sometimes feel like that. We're like, okay, I can breathe, air it out, see where it goes. So the airing it out, that 10-minute pranayama to see where it goes, then it's going to go somewhere. This too shall pass, right? This too shall pass. Was that King Solomon? This too shall pass. And so we get curious about the deeper layers. And then we get curious about, what do I really want? And what am I now? And to me, there's a little bit of a bridge here. It's like, what am I now willing, like what conflict am I now willing to deal with? So when we're conflict averse, when we're risk averse, we have fear of conflict, fear of hunger. To me, those are all they're sort of swimming in the same pool, right? Just like it's hard, like chronic inflammation usually has to do with excess white fat storage. Does it always? No, it doesn't always. So if it's not that, usually there's endocrine disrupting chemicals somewhere, right? And then if not either of those two things, is it just that the immune system's totally broken down and undernourished? But for most of us, there's like so much that's just in that little layer of complacency. And as we go into FMD or 72-hour water fast, it starts to churn and stuff might come up. And then you might also just have this access of like more clarity of what do I really want? And now if we go into conflict, like what am I willing to fight for? So go ahead and just write, like just take a moment and freestyle. I think both as a yogini and a small business owner with a lot of ambition, I listen to a lot of success strategy type of thought leadership across, I don't know, probably across like thousands of years, but like I also listen to a lot of people who are like quite just modern. And there's a few truisms in there, and the biggest one is really around persistence. And it's in every ancient book. It's like nowhere, like feel the hunger, awaken the light, right? Hunger is fire. It awakens light, and light you can see. You can see to vision. You can see where you want to go, and a go is a goal, right? And then it's just a question of how many times when you get knocked down will you get back up and keep going? Success 101, 201, 301, 401, 501. And so it's the short-term pain, long-term gain, right? Like how we use adversity habits. So adversity habits, primal habits are adversity habits. What I find so fascinating about adversity habits. So adversity means that there's a hardness to it, that we're averse to doing them. So it's the opposite. You can think of adversity and complacency on different sides of that polarity spectrum. So the more complacent a person is, usually the more chronic inflammation they have, usually the harder it is for them to do hard things. So the less willing they are to sacrifice short-term pain for long-term gain. right? Don't we all look back and we're like, yeah, that's true for me too. Something like that. And so what's fascinating about, I think most of us who are here, it's like we're on that short-term pain, long-term gain path. And we've been on that for a while. And then we see that adversity habits, the things that are maybe harder for other people to do, become easier with habit. Right? We just habituate adversity. So if like we have to forgive someone, like we forgive them because we don't want to hold on. Right? If our body's holding on to stuff, we detox because we just don't want to hold on. Like we don't want the junk in the way of the clarity. And we want, I find this is true, we want all of the energy that we can organize for Dharma, for like what it is we're really here to do in this lifetime. So we don't want to like waste a bunch of energy just by living in in Ayurveda, this one, did anyone study with Dr. Valmir Mishra? He was a gem. He was a gem. He was the one who really figured out a lot of transdermal applications of Ayurvedic medicines. Great naturopathic Ayurvedic doctor from India. But he would go to like, food is basically alive, dead, or dumb. And so if you're eating food if you're doing things and eating foods that dumb down your system, like your physiology gets dumb. And the word we're using for there is like there's undigested food or ama, or there's complacency. And so the more complacency, the harder to get your get up and go on. So even small adversity habits throughout the day, humming. Who did a little humming yesterday? Did anyone do a little humming? Yeah, sweet. It's like, it's not hard. You just have to remember. And even like not eating, there's a level to it that it's not hard. You just have to remember why you're doing it. Right? For a lot of us. It's like, yeah, there's periods in the day. There's maybe 10 periods in the day. There's maybe 10 moments in the day where it's really hard. And then you're like breathing, humming, self-massage, sauna, cold plunge, walking, shake yourself, like anything. And this too shall pass. And then what's underneath it? So what's underneath it is better. Like that's more true. That's more you. So where are you going? Where do you want to go next in your life? Like hands on the steering wheel, like where are you going? And what do you really want? Okay, I'm going to draw a picture. Okay, so we've talked a bit about how the evolutionary spiral. So this is like, instead of it's your evolutionary spiral is you get more capacity and capability, like it expands, right? So there's you're not just staying in this lane, like you've got all this, right? And what is that? We could put that, if we turn it, right? There's more growth and there's more depth. And you have to root to rise. So we're in a rooting, like we're going in, we're in the cave. And in the cave, that's where you get the directionality of the growth. You're like, oh, X marks the spot. I see the vision. I want to go there. That's where I want to go. So I have to sacrifice. So everything in depth path, it's the sacrifice, it's the sacred, right? And then up here, this is like where all the shiny objects are. This is where you get like the crown and everyone's like, you're amazing. You're beautiful. You're enough. But that's where we get recognition. Down here, there's no recognition. And so the deal is this, when I'm talking about conflict and hunger, because someone asked a great question yesterday, I think it was you, Lisa, and it was like, how deep can I go? And I was like, all the way, right? Let's find the bottom. And so it just means that there's going to be more, these might be in many ways, there's like, if we look at hunger as levels of conflict, right? And then it's like this X up here, right? Which is this increased capacity, right? It's got to be worth fighting for. So does that mean it'll be easy? Like, no, it's never going to be easy. Like ease doesn't seem to be part of the evolutionary game. Ease is in the ground of being that's always already present, that's surrounding the game. So the whole spiral arises within the ground of being, which means you can recharge your batteries whenever you want. Right? Like you can just release into the bliss body, the ever-present self, the, you know, that which is beyond name and form. And in there is universal energy and intelligence, and it gives direction. So direction is inspired out of the ground of being. The spiral comes out of the ground of being. So even if you don't know what you want, but you're willing to get curious and keep making these sacrifices, you know, humming, breathing, walking, not eating, not doing certain things that distract you from the deeper work right now, this internal work. So what will happen is then you'll get insight and you'll be like, X marks the spot. That's where I want to go. Then conflict. You're going to have to deal. Like, what are you going to have to deal with? So there's then going to be trade-offs. Because to go here, it means you're not going here or here. So then there's going to be hard choices and trade-offs. So I'm just saying this because we can expect this. So then if we expect it, then it's like, oh, okay, that's normal. It's all totally normal. That's just how it works. That if I trade this off, then I can't have that. I've got to do this or that. And there is also a bit of paradox with yes and. How do I do this and that? And then the trade-offs might be smaller. But there's usually a level where we get that by trading off and trading off. Let me put that in red. The trade-offs usually, let me try to write somewhat legibly. It's usually short-term pain. Like what is the flavor of this for X, the long-term game? Okay, so we're gonna go into breakout rooms. And you're just gonna talk for a few minutes about what's coming up, what's getting digested, what's coming up, and where do you sense you want to go next? And if you don't know, just be like, and I have no idea. I'm just going to keep going until I can see. Okay? Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question before? Can you talk maybe after or anytime about how do we know when it's time to emerge? How do we know, like, when do we know it's time to emerge from fasting so that it doesn't turn into more harm than good? Is that?
Yeah, I would say for you, like 72 hours is great. And then go into microbiome diet.
Okay, so this idea of how far can I go, like how far to the bottom, so just doesn't always apply.
Right. It doesn't always apply.
Okay.
It doesn't always apply. Because if you're, I mean, I like the pinch test. You guys know I love the pinch test too. I'm hanging out here. So basically you take your belly fat, take a big handle. How much can you squeeze? See, how big a roll can you get? How big is it, Mahite?
There's, I
There's
mean,
no roll.
there's no roll.
There's no roll. You're good. Who has
Here's
plenty
the roll.
left? You're like, I gotta roll. I gotta roll. I can rock and roll my roll. Like I could maybe be in, I want to see where the bottom of this roll is. Yeah. Then you can, yeah. Then, right? Then, yeah.
So if no roll, there's a limit, and we
You're good. You're
at
good.
the bottom.
Rebuild, rebuild, rebuild. Yeah. Yep. And you guys, no roll isn't necessary. It's not necessarily easier. So don't put a whole bunch of assumptions on like, I wish I had no roll. It's great to be able to build a good solid roll. Yeah. And then it's good to be able to take it down to less than an inch. So we're looking for like an inch for normal life. And then like, as we're thinning out the fat, it can go a little less than an inch. Okay. We're going to be in rooms of 2 or 3. We'll be back in, let's see. It looks like we have 6 minutes. I'm going to put us in rooms of 2 so that everyone has 2 minutes. Okay. See ya. The energetic, like, it's like, you can even think of it like pulling the koshas apart.
Apart from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I
Just so
like
you
that.
feel yourself, right?
Yeah,
As individuated again.
for sure. And maybe some advice on this piece. It's just that when my kids are with him, he's like super unstable at the moment. And so it's affecting my kids. Nightmares, no sleep, and he's going for the easy food. I mean, he cooks relatively well, but like easy food, so many bagels, so many starches. One of my kids belly blocked for like 3 days. So we went to the osteopath, figured it out. But I mean, everybody's back to normal. Everybody's sleeping now. My ex is gone, but it's like, how do I let him just kind of like take over and figure it out? It's me. I feel like it's a big piece for me to let go.
Yeah, I think so.
So
And teach the kids how to navigate for themselves. So do you know that ileocecal human garage, that trauma release?
is
I was gonna talk
that
about
with
it.
the legs?
No, it's like, so you're here, like belly button, you go over
Yeah.
and you're just looking for where it's stuck.
Yeah.
And then you pull and all the human garage and all the torque releases, it's like you pull the perineum, anus, inner thighs.
Yeah.
So you get into the midline at the root chakra, second chakra, and you go and twist.
Yeah. He didn't like that. I did something like that and he didn't like it. I mean, it unblocked, but it was really, really stuck.
Yeah. Well, and if teaching him how to do it for himself.
Yeah, he's stoked. He's like, now I know what to do.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. So I think it's letting go.
Letting go of control. All right. I'm curious. Is anyone right in it with the conflict thing, with what are you willing to fight for? Is that kind of up for anyone? I'm curious. Does that resonate? Yeah, Kat.
It's definitely up for me, touching on what you were talking about yesterday, and I'm witnessing my mom kind of go down this road of allopathic, making her sicker. So I'm definitely willing to fight for freedom from misinformation and chronic disease getting worse.
Does that help you with your business? Messaging?
Well, it's big. Yeah, my business is completely separate from that, but my subtle is affected by, of course, what's going on with her. So
I wouldn't let it be that separate.
how so?
Well, it's like mission. It's like when you speak from conviction, you have conviction around misinformation. Right?
For sure.
And so when then that's something that it's like when you're clear on conviction, there's so much power, like the Shakti just moves through that. The desire just moves through that. And then other people can hear it. They might not agree, but they can hear it. Like for some people, they're like, what do you mean misinformation? There's no misinformation. If you were to say that to like, you know, certain interest groups, they wouldn't know what you're talking about at all. And they would fight you on it if they did know what you were talking about. And then other people are like, oh, that's an interesting way to say it. I haven't heard it that way. That's curious. I wonder where I've been misinformed. Right? And then that opens a door. So I would use a lot of your conviction that's coming up around this. I don't look at anything as random or non-coinciding. Right? It's like, what's happening now? Like who's coming into the field now? What's coming up now? It's all intelligent, right? And that atah, that now.
Gary, I wasn't even asking for that, but I. Whoa. Gary, I wasn't even asking for that, but I appreciate it.
You know this single valve release, the partner one, where we go like this?
Gary.
See that there? Okay.
I wasn't even asking for that, but I appreciate it.
Going down in the heart. Just keep that area moving for you. It's important. Your eyes is going to be blue. I mean, super blue. Yeah.
So there's a lot, you can just, you know, Google ileocecal valve. We'll put them on Club Thrive TV too. But for a lot of people, it can be stuck. And then you might be constipated. You might not digest as well. That second torque he did around the belly button, I mean, depending on what's happened in your viscera, like some of you have had surgery, some of you have had C-sections, some of you have had chronic constipation or chronic bile issues or whatever. Like if in your health history, and some of you are just like blessed to be free and clear and amazing and good for you. Okay, for the rest of us mere mortals, stuff gets stuck in the viscera. And so in Ayurvedic medicine, when people start studying Ayurveda, start learning Ayurveda, they learn self-massage. It's called Abhyanga. And usually it's taught with like a lot of oil because it counters dryness of aging, like we talked about yesterday. But there's this whole other level of using your hands to heal. And where the videos in our healing section, in our heal studio, there's one on Human Garage that teaches some of the like most fundamental lower body releases. There's a ton of releases that they have. And some of these visceral ones around the belly button and ileocecal valve will be really helpful. Now, anyone who has scar tissue, whether it's from any sort of, you know, like a hernia surgery, an abdominal surgery, hysterectomy, a C-section, whatever, there's scar tissue, and the scar tissue grabs the fascia and it pulls the limbs, it pulls everything into a pattern. So when you're this deep into fasting, it's actually, there's a lot more transparency in the viscera. Right? There's less fat in the way. There's less stuff in the way. There's less food in the colon. And so you can really get in there and start to move around. And you saw her face, how it was like, that was not a comfortable looking face in the beginning. And then huge relief after, and her eyes turn blue, right? Everything wakes up. So I just invite you all to like play around with that, you know, with what does self-massage mean in these next few days. And I find I do have a lot of scar tissue internally. Like I can really, it is this pulling apart. Usually the sensation is burning. That's how you know you're doing it right. All right. Yeah. You guys good? You guys psyched? Have a good day. All right. Yeah. Be curious what comes up and where the desire goes and what the trade-offs might be. Okay. Just really get into that and we'll see what happens. Yay. All right, everyone. A lot of love. Peace out.